I still remember that exact second when my 7-year-old daughter squeezed my fingers so tight I thought she might hurt herself. Her small hand trembled, and her voice came out in a whisper that felt louder than the wedding music blasting around us. "Mom, we need to go, now." Her eyes were wide, terrified, and fixed on something across the room. For a moment I thought maybe she was sick, maybe overwhelmed by the lights, the crowd, the noise. But when I followed her gaze, I saw something that made my stomach drop, my knees go weak, and my heart shatter in silence. Across the hall, standing under the golden chandelier, was my husband, Fahad, and right next to him, laughing, leaning close, her hand on his arm, was my sister. My baby sister, Maryam, the bride, tell me honestly, what would you have done if you were in my place? Would you have walked up to them, or walked away like I did? Maryam and I have always been close, or at least, that's what I believed for most of my life. She's 2 years younger than me, the golden child in our family. She's the one everyone adored, my mom's little angel, my dad's pride. I was always the responsible one, the older sister who was expected to understand, to compromise, to be the example. Miriam was the sunshine, I was the shade. Growing up, she was the one who got away with everything, staying out late, bad grades, silly mistakes. Me, I was the one who cleaned up after her, defended her, protected her. Maybe that's why I never saw the knife when she finally turned it on me. I met Fahad when I was in college. He was confident, charming, and seemed so mature. A little older than me, already working at an engineering firm where my father's friend was a partner. He had that quiet kind of intelligence that draws people in. Everyone liked him immediately, and I fell in love hard and fast. He wasn't overly romantic, but he was dependable, calm, the kind of man you could build a life with. Or so I thought. We got married after a year of dating. It wasn't a grand affair, but it was full of love, at least on my end. I still remember how proud I felt walking down the aisle toward him. My parents were happy. Miriam was my maid of honor, and she cried more than I did during the vows. I thought she was just emotional. Now I wonder what those tears really meant. When our daughter, Aisha, was born, I felt complete. Fahad wasn't the most expressive father, but he was there, or at least physically. He'd hold Aisha, kiss her on the forehead, then disappear into work calls or emails. I didn't mind. I thought he was just busy. I didn't notice how distant he'd become until it was too late. Meanwhile, Miriam was always around. She adored Aisha, and Aisha adored her back. Miriam would come over after work, help me cook, help bathe the baby. Sometimes she'd stay late just to keep me company, when Fahad was working late. Back then, I was grateful. I thought, God, I'm so lucky to have a sister like her. But looking back, maybe that's when it all began. There were small things at first, moments that didn't make sense until later. I once caught Miriam looking at had a little too long when he was talking. Just a split second, but the kind of look you notice when you know someone too well. Another time, I found them laughing together in the kitchen, their voices low, the kind of laughter that feels private. When I walked in, they both stopped. Fahad smiled and said, "Your sister's hilarious." Miriam giggled and said, "You're lucky to have him." I smiled too, but something about the way she said it made my skin crawl. I brushed it off. I told myself I was being paranoid. I loved them both. I didn't want to think anything bad. A few months before Miriam's wedding, things started getting strange. Fahad was on his phone more often, always texting, always locking the screen when I got near. Once, late at night, I heard him in the living room whispering on a call. When I asked who it was, he said it was work stuff, but the next morning I saw a message flash on his phone while he was in the shower. The preview said, "Last night felt like a dream." There was no name, just a heart emoji. My heart sank. I wanted to believe it wasn't what it looked like, but every instinct in me screamed otherwise. I didn't unlock the phone. I didn't want confirmation. Denial is such a comfortable cage until it breaks. When Miriam got engaged to Asen, a sweet, humble man, everyone was thrilled. I told myself that this was my chance to let go of my fears. Once she was married, maybe the closeness between her and Fahad would fade naturally. I threw myself into helping her plan everything: the daycare, the guest list, the bridal dress. I wanted her to have everything she'd ever dreamed of. Even if, deep inside, something about it all felt off. The day of the wedding was perfect, at least. That's what it looked like from the outside. The hall glittered with fairy lights, laughter echoed everywhere, and the air smelled like roses and perfume. Miriam looked breathtaking in her red bridal gown, her hands trembling slightly as she held the bouquet. I stood by her, fixing her dupatta, holding back tears. I told her, "You're going to be so happy." She smiled and whispered, "I hope so." Fahad was everywhere that night, helping my parents with the guests, directing photographers, making sure everything went smoothly. I remember thinking, he's being so thoughtful tonight. But now I realize maybe he was just making sure everything looked perfect before it all fell apart. Then came that one moment, the one that changed everything. Aisha tugged at my hand, her face pale, her eyes darting toward the back of the hall. I bent down, worried she might be sick, but her voice shook as she said, "Mom, we need to go, now." I asked her why, and she whispered, because Uncle Fa had just told Aunt Miriam something in her ear, and then she held his hand and laughed, like you too do when you think I'm not looking. I froze. My blood went cold. I didn't want to believe her, but children don't lie about these things, not like that. My eyes followed her gaze, and sure enough, there they were. Fahad and Miriam hidden behind the stage curtain, faces too close, smiling in that secret way only lovers do. I started walking toward them slow, steady, like I was watching myself from outside my body. I got close enough to hear Fahad's voice, low and intimate. "You know," he said, "if things were different, I would have chosen you." Miriam smiled that same sweet smile she's always had, and whispered, "You should have, Fahad." I swear I felt something inside me die in that moment. My heart didn't just break, it went silent. Everything around me, the laughter, the music, the camera flashes, it all disappeared. I turned away before they could see me, grabbed Aisha's hand, and walked straight out. My heels clicked against the marble floor like gunshots in the silence. Fahad called after me, his voice faint, "Where are you going?" I didn't look back. "Somewhere you're not," I said, and kept walking. That night I didn't sleep. I just sat on my bed, staring at the wall while Aisha slept beside me. My mind kept replaying their faces, their voices, those words. The next morning, Fahad came home like nothing had happened. He asked casually, "Why'd you leave the wedding like that? Everyone was asking." I turned to him and said, "Because I saw you, with her." For the first time his confident calm slipped. He tried to laugh it off, saying, "You're imagining things, you're being dramatic again." But I wasn't. I'd seen enough. I didn't tell my parents immediately. I wanted proof, not just pain. Then one evening I went through our shared laptop, something I'd never done before, and found a hidden folder. Inside were screenshots of messages, some photos and voice notes. Miriam's voice laughing, his voice saying, "I wish I could hold you right now." My breath caught in my throat. I remember shaking, deleting nothing, just staring at the evidence of betrayal so deep it made me sick. The next day I told my parents everything. At first they refused to believe it. My dad said, "Fahad would never do that, and Miriam, she's your sister." But then I showed them the messages. My mother started to cry, her hands trembling, whispering, "What did we do wrong raising them?" So that's where I was torn between blood and betrayal. My husband and my sister. My daughter had seen something no child should see, and I was the only one who could decide what to do. So, let me ask you again, what would you do if you were me? Would you expose them both and destroy the family, or would you walk away silently to protect what little peace was left? Before I tell you what I did next, pause this and tell me in the comments, because I really want to know what kind of person you think I am. I didn't stay silent. I couldn't. Silence is what people count on when they hurt you. They think your shame will protect them. But mine had turned into anger. I called Miriam the next morning. She didn't answer. I texted her, "I know about you and Fahad." 10 minutes later, she replied, "I'm sorry, it was a mistake. We didn't mean to hurt you." My fingers shook as I typed back, "A mistake doesn't last for months." She didn't reply after that. That evening, Fahad came home furious. "You had no right to involve your parents," he shouted. I laughed, an ugly, broken laugh. "You had no right to sleep with my sister." I said. His face went pale, but he didn't deny it. He just sat down, sighed, and said, "You never made me feel alive. She did." That was it. That was the moment I realized our marriage had died long before I caught them. He just buried it quietly, and I was too blind to see. I filed for divorce the next morning. No more pretending, no more waiting. Miriam's wedding fell apart within days. When Asen, her fiancé, found out, he broke it off immediately. My parents were devastated. My mother stopped talking to anyone for weeks. My father couldn't even look me in the eye without breaking down. They loved us both, but how could they choose sides? I didn't ask them to. I just packed up my things, took Aisha, and left that house. Months passed. I tried to rebuild my life piece by piece. I got a small apartment, started working again, focused on Aisha. But healing isn't linear. Some days I'd feel strong, other days I'd fall apart. Then, one night, I got a message from an unknown number. It was Miriam. She wrote, "I've lost everything. I can't sleep. I can't eat. I just want you to forgive me." I stared at that message for a long time. Finally, I replied, "I forgive you, but I will never forget." She sent one more text, "You were always the stronger sister." And that was the last time we ever spoke. It's been 2 years now. Aisha's growing fast. She still asks about her dad sometimes. I tell her he made mistakes, but we're okay now. She asks about her aunt too. I say, she's learning from her mistakes. It's easier than explaining betrayal to a child. Sometimes I still wake up in the middle of the night and think about that wedding. The music, the lights, the laughter, and that tiny voice that saved me. "Mom, we need to go, now." Maybe Aisha saw what I refused to see. Maybe children sense the truth better than adults do. Either way, that moment changed everything. If you made it this far, thank you for listening to my story. I don't know if I did the right thing, ending it all, walking away, exposing the truth. But I know this: staying would have destroyed me more than leaving ever could. Sometimes, peace comes not from forgiving others, but from forgiving yourself for finally choosing yourself. So tell me, was I wrong for ending my marriage and breaking the family apart? Or was I right to walk away from betrayal, no matter who it came from? Like this video if you were on my side, subscribe for more stories like this, and let me know your thoughts in the comments, because I really want to hear what you would have done. I'll see you all in the next story.